Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Today we have a full panel, and I brought up three topics, but I don't know if we're going to get to all of them. And Ben only has a limited amount of time before he has to get off to do some other things. So we're going to take the transgender topic first. Um, and if I think what I may do is cut us off at past, 30 minutes in from this topic and moved on to another topic. And if we still have a ton to say about it, which we probably will, we can just do another show on this another day. So first, I want to introduce all of my guests. Today, I have with me Kitty, the atheist.
Hey, everyone.
And we have Julie LaVoice.
Hi, y'all.
And we have student Dr. Ben.
Hello.
We also have the lovely, the wonderful, the amazing Jenni Morgan. Jenni is having some tech difficulties, and so she's been kind of popping in and out as we've been getting ready backstage. And she will be back in a minute or two. And when she gets here, we'll just pop her into the screen. I also want to acknowledge everyone who is here today. The person with the name that's in, I'm not sure what language that is. I can't even read the lettering. I know that you said that it's a very simple name, and I forgot what it is. But hello, and sorry you couldn't stay for the stream, and I'm glad you're watching it later. Something so I can remember how to say your name in English, because I can't remember. Okay, hello to Mr. Shadow Kitty. Hello, B. B will be having a stream right after this one. So when we're all over, head over to B's and give his show a view as well. And let's see. Greatheart Labs is here, and John Christian, and Junk Shop Library, and Nevermore. Thank you all for joining us. And hello, Jenni.
Good evening. I think we got everything taken care of. StreamYard has found yet another way to fuck things up if you're using mobile. The sound comes in at about 1/10 it's supposed to level. You can't hear a thing. So now you can't see anything and you can't hear anything unless you reboot.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Well, we're gonna cover the transgender topic first. And there has been a lot going on with legislation in Texas, in Idaho, in here in Alabama. So let's get started with Texas, because that's the most egregious one. Jenni, I'll let you kick us off with what's going on in Texas.
Well, nothing really.
Jenni,
Just ruining children's lives,
The state's attorney general, Kenneth Paxton, has it out for trans people. And he has put together a memo that strongly recommends the government of Texas to look at the recent passage of an anti-trans bill several days ago, a week maybe, that says some of the typical things like no trans care for kids.
I have the letter on the screen right now. Do you want me to read it real quick?
Yeah,
do you want me to read the whole thing, or do you want to summarize it?
Sure.
Okay.
Go ahead.
It says Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton filed an amended lawsuit against the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services regarding new guidance that empowers the federal government to withhold federal funding from state entities that do not adhere to their misinterpretation of the Affordable Care Act, the Rehabilitation Act, and the Americans with Disabilities Act.
That's today's letter.
That's today's letter. Oh, you're talking about a different one.
We're doing the background.
We shouldn't read the whole opinion because it's long. It's a long opinion. We did cover it on the nonprofits, the episode that just released this past week. Because Phoebe and I were on that one, and we go pretty in depth on why scientifically it's not sound, because there's so much medical misinformation in all of that. If you get even like one expert, much less like the entire AAFP, AMA, like pretty much all the specialty boards that work with trans kids have come up with statements that oppose this thing that he just said. Yeah.
The opinion that he wrote basically says that that which Ben was just discussing should be viewed as interpreted to mean that parents who treat their trans children medically are guilty of child abuse.
Yeah.
And should be tracked down and put in prison.
Which a lot of the things that he mentions in that opinion are not treatments that are done on trans children. A lot of the things that he says are done on adults, consenting adults. And he says that they're used on children. We do not perform genital surgeries on children. So that's blatant misinformation in what he's saying. So
I've seen that in just about every state that's passing legislation on this.
But there's good reason for that, because we wait, but something like puberty blockers that is very helpful for trans children with body dysphoria and dysmorphia is incredibly helpful and good for them.
Mm-hmm. And it's reversible, unlike HRT, unlike your own puberty. Your own puberty is probably the most irreversible thing that you'll go through. So
you don't have to tell me, buddy.
But
Manny, where did that go?
But we covered in the medical side, but Phoebe also does a really good job explaining legally why it doesn't work and why it's a poor opinion in the first place. But I don't know much about the legal side of it.
His opinion also goes on to discuss that physicians should be jailed for this, charged with felonies. This is not just civil crap. This is felonies. You're going to spend your life in prison on some of this stuff.
Which is interesting that they're making it a criminal offense when literally anything else in medicine is going to be a civil suit. Like any malpractice. Even like if you kill somebody under a misdiagnosis, like it's not criminal unless you've done something incredibly like off the charts, like
criminally
unreasonable
homicide.
Yeah, but like if you gave somebody an overdose of a certain medication because you typed in something wrong, you killed somebody, and you're going to be charged with malpractice, and it's civil. So the fact that we're going straight to a criminal charge. And a very hefty criminal charge for
the only thing I can think of
for doing the right thing for a child when you could actually do something wrong and kill somebody, and that's still civil. Like, where are you going with this comparison?
The only thing I can think of that even compares in semi-recent history is pre-1973, when doctors could be criminally charged for performing an abortion.
Mm-hmm.
And
now,
but that is the that's as close as I can get to it.
The letter that came out today is another opinion of the brilliant Kenneth Paxton that basically says all the things in his other letter should also be included. That basically covers all trans people, not just kids. Down to things like allowing their companies to have dress codes for trans people, that they are not allowed to use bathrooms of their choice, that they are not allowed to change their names or anything like that.
How do you enforce something like bathrooms and a dress code when think of those of us who go stealth. Like I go stealth like almost every day, and how would you enforce something like that?
I have no idea. That's what strikes it. It's so stupid, and all it is just to make people feel terrible, and it's gonna cause more death. It's gonna drive people to suicide.
That question, Ben, is the essence of the terror of the bill. Mm-hmm. That no transgender person will feel safe anywhere, anytime.
Yeah.
And then there's Idaho.
Yeah. Idaho wants to make it illegal to take a child out of the state for transgender affirming care, which I don't think they can do that
They
because
can't do that.
there's no nexus. You know, in order to have a criminal charge, you have the state has to have a nexus to that charge, and normally it's that the crime occurred within their state. There are a few exceptions to that. There are times when a state can charge someone for a crime across state lines. Usually it's because there's a blurring of the state line. You know, like maybe the crime occurred and it continued on over the state line, but you can't charge someone for a crime for something that didn't even happen in your state.
Right. And also, like if it's about taking a minor across state lines, I mean, that the only thing that's like kidnapping is, you know, we all get Amber Alerts on our phones, you know, when that, but like this is if it's legal in the state where they're going, then they're not doing anything illegal. To put it in a very lame layperson's version of what Granny just said.
A funny thing here too, the fact that like a lot of these people are known for saying things like that they oppose big government and all this stuff, and then they're doing this stuff like trying to regulate where you can take your kid, and like so on the one hand you have people that are like, oh no, parents' rights, like we want to make sure that parents have rights. And then they're also like, yeah, but you don't have the right to take your kid across state lines for healthcare because we're gonna make your healthcare illegal. Like, okay, so you're gonna allow you're gonna fight for parents' rights to like keep their kids in the closet and depressed and at high suicide risk, but you're not going to allow parents to have rights when it comes to, you know, helping their kids decrease their suicide risk. Like it's absolutely inconsistent. Like their logic does not follow.
It hasn't followed since the pro-life movement started. And it's like also, no big government except when it comes to anyone with a uterus, and then we're all up in it.
It's also important to note that these aren't going to be considered felonies, and parents can face life in prison for it,
which is ridiculous.
They always go to that fallback of think of the children and scare tactics around children, but it's never consistent, you know. And like a small example, you know, they you know, banned flavored tobacco products. They cracked down on vaping stuff because the fruity flavors are meant to target kids. But then they say nothing about the birthday cake vodka that you can get or the churro vodka. It's like, if adults can enjoy like, is that not targeted at kids? So they're very inconsistent in when they apply it. It's just when they want to crack down on something, they do. And as you were saying about the bathroom thing earlier, there are cis people that might get targeted and harassed because they're not like, you know, they don't pass. I can't think of a better way, like, you know, but they don't look like the gender that, you know, or
they really are.
That they actually are.
Right.
And I mean, so what's going to happen then? You're going to tackle them? You're going to demand that they show off their genitals to you? Like, the fuck?
What the fuck is going to happen? Because as a cis woman who has never been gender conforming, and, you know, hated dresses, hated all of that nonsense, never. I you know, I've gotten weird looks from people, you know, going into the ladies' room. And the main reason, honestly, the biggest reason that I don't is my hair. I keep my hair long because I like it that way. And if it's short, it goes all crazy and weird. But it's that, and literally that's the dumbass assumption in my state. I've seen people get confused over a cis man's gender because he had long hair. And
I want to point out what B has here, that that they can, this topic can continue on B's channel after the stream is over. So if you want to continue with this discussion, just head over to B's afterward.
But also people like cis women with PCOS, like, or other medical conditions that can cause you to grow hair in a more masculine pattern, have higher levels of androgens. That's not your fault. And it's not always that you can really treat it effectively. So it does leave for some weird, I don't know, targeting of cis people, and like you said, men with long hair, women with short hair, like and so this is something from my own experience that was a little funny to me, because I do go stealth, and I was on psychiatry in January, and I was fairly open about being trans while on this psych rotation, because there were plenty of kids who are trans at that psych facility who were admitted for suicidal ideation, which is absolutely depressing. And so I was open, because I'm like, I want you to know that you're safe and that I've got your back. And if you want me to talk to anybody here, if you're having problems, like, I will bring it up. So there were a couple other students there from other schools with me. A PA student and an NP student were both there on the same rotation. And I had mentioned that I was trans. And one of them thought that I was transitioning
To female?
male to female. I was like, no, I'm transitioning female to male, and they were so confused. Like, so sometimes you can't tell.
Yeah, you can't tell people, and we do get hung up on presentation. I know I have. And being raised in a place where you're taught to say please and thank you right along with yes sir and yes ma'am. I'm like, just the other day at Junk Shop Library and I were at the pharmacy picking something up, and I just automatically said thank you sir, because it's in my brain to do that. And as we were walking away, I was like, I don't know what that person's gender is. I couldn't even see half their face because masks, and I just assumed, to use the male honorific. We need a non-gender specific honorific, but I'm going on a tangent anyway.
You mean like they?
Like they is great. Or I could have just said thank you so much. I didn't have to throw in the sir or ma'am. You just gotta reprogram.
The first reviews that I have read from trans people who are involved with the legal aspects of what goes on in our lives have read the Paxton letters as a group, to open the door to having all of this happen to gay and lesbian people, not just trans people. And if you look at it in that light, it can also apply to cis people.
Yeah, it can.
Okay, that all you cis people out there are now going to fall under their regulations of inspecting you, rejecting you, deciding where you can and cannot go for your personal travel, much less medical treatment. I mean, one of the basic things that defines our nation is our ability to travel interstate without question, without papers. Okay, and our freedom to do commerce wherever we so choose. Okay, so what they're doing, they're trying to break the Constitution. And when the authoritarian regime gets in this coming 2022 elections and 2024, it's going to happen, folks. You're all going to get nailed with it. It's not just us.
No,
and they have shown their cards.
Yeah.
I think we need to go full on anti-theist, because I really think that it is the religious right that is pushing all of this. They want everyone to conform to their religious program.
But this is not a theocracy, people. It was specifically founded as a secular nation because they were escaping from being under the thumb of a theocracy.
Where the head of state was also the head of the church. They wanted to avoid that.
The queen is still the head of the church.
Still the head of the church, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, so it's absolutely, and you are absolutely right, Kenny. And you're absolutely right, Jenny, in that, it's gonna hit us, all of us in the LGBTQ community. It's gonna hit all of us. And I know that I go, Junk Shop and I hate this in a way, but we can pass if we want to. It just depends on what we're wearing. We can pass. But I don't, part of me hates that we can pass, because I feel like it puts, anyway, no, I'm just going to babble now. I'm going to stop.
I know what you're saying though. Like, for those that can pass easily, you almost feel, I mean, I guess
feel
it would be
guilty.
comparable to like survivor's guilt, you know,
Yeah,
but
a little bit.
it's not the exact same, but it's a similar thing. It's, you know, that there are others that are not in the same position as you, that they don't pass easily. They're not just overlooked by society as a whole because they, you know, fit that, or at least at first glance, fit that little cookie cutter box.
Right.
You know?
Like when I wear blue jeans and boots in public, nobody accuses me of cross-dressing. You know, I'm not in danger of getting beaten up or having slurs thrown at me. It's a different situation where I live. If we go out and Junk Shop is wearing a skirt, there are very specific places and very specific neighborhoods and very specific friends' homes that we go to where that's okay. And then there are places where we have to go sometimes where that is not okay. And then, you know, they have to wear different clothes that they might not have chosen otherwise.
A major fallout
ridiculous.
that I see for Texas is that if they keep concentrating on looking for child abuse among the transgender community, children that really are suffering from neglect and abuse are going to get overlooked. They're going to get killed because no one is looking out for them. They're too busy looking for transgender children.
Yeah, it's a witch hunt, absolutely. And you're right. Children that really need help are going to get left out.
I mean, not even in some of the dystopian books where you have authoritarian regimes like Starship Troopers. Like, it wasn't even this bad in Starship Troopers, and like that's saying something. I mean, the fact that we are marching towards like an authoritarian like type of society where, you know, our freedoms and liberties are being stomped on, and it's been happening for a while. I mean, the Patriot Act was a huge violation and continues to be, but it's again pick and choose. Like 2,000 people died when 9/11 happened, and that was a tragedy, and we as a nation mourned, but then we gave away our freedoms, and that was just one step closer to this authoritarianism that we're seeing now. Yet with COVID, you had, you know, at times more than a 9/11's worth of dead Americans a day, and they didn't care. So again, like they target and hyper focus on one area and just ignore the rest.
Yeah, my freedoms to not wear a mask outweigh your freedoms to like be yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting that they think, well, the children shouldn't have to comply with the government and shouldn't have to be made to do this as far as a stupid fucking mask. But the government, we're going to allow the government to absolutely fuck up your life in every other aspect. And well, we don't really care if you commit suicide.
Yeah, and while we're talking, just a real quick thing while we're talking about that, I have a lot of friends who are grammar school teachers. And if you go out and protest at a grammar school, those kids aren't free because they're forced to wear masks, that school goes into lockdown. And what you have done is terrified hundreds of children who think there might be an active shooter in their school because they have now been taught that since kindergarten, and that is now normal, apparently. So please don't do that. However you feel about masks, don't protest outside of an elementary school, please. All you're doing is making tiny little humans cry and be terrified.
One of the arguments that I make with regards to these ridiculous bills on healthcare is if you're really so concerned about something that no one's ever done to make sure that no one ever does it, why not introduce legislation prohibiting pediatric dentistry being done underwater? I mean, you know, if you're trying to do dentistry underwater, the child is going to drown. So let's outlaw underwater pediatric dentistry.
There you go.
What?
It's a hyperbolic example.
It's an example of, you know, if we're going to outlaw transgender surgery for children, something that nobody does, because
adults too,
if you did it, this could be a problem, then hey, let's outlaw underwater pediatric dentistry while we're at it too, because that would kill them.
In my state, it's illegal to harpoon a whale from land. I live in a landlocked state with a big river next to it that's fresh water. But it's still on the books, guys.
Who took the time out of their day to write that?
Somebody really bored in the 19th century. I don't know.
Well, I mean, there's a law about not molesting alligators here.
Well, but
and I feel
that's
bad
fair though.
for,
That's
like,
fair though.
I mean, I feel bad for the alligator that law had to be written about, like, you know, like.
But you feel like it happened, right? It happened.
Oh, it definitely happened.
Yeah, but that's Florida, right?
No
we're talking
one
about Florida.
Yeah,
aren't
we're
we?
talking about
yeah. So that's
from land
necessary.
in Tennessee. That hasn't happened. We're nowhere near an ocean.
So this is all very related to what's going on in Florida as well with the, you know, they're calling it the Don't Say Gay bill. Kitty, you live in Florida.
Yeah.
How do people feel about that?
Well, it's kind of divided because there are quite a few pockets of, you know, liberals in Florida, but they're kind of drowned out by the gerrymandering that's happened and the fact that there's a lot of retirees that tend to vote conservative. And what really won the state for Trump in 2020 was the large Cuban community, because they like really went in on that anti-communist, you know, Castro essentially bandwagon that they were using to get it. But with the Don't Say Gay bill, it is essentially making it so that not only are, you know, teachers not allowed to teach about the fact that, you know, there's more than just cishet people in the world, but if a teacher hears a rumor that a child is LGBT, they are required by law to out that child, even if they suspect that outing could cause harm to said child.
I have the perfect solution for that. It's the same one that I gave about a year ago on a transgender bill, which is the school sends home a memo to every parent. It says, today your child may or may not have done something or said something to indicate that they may or may not be gay.
That might be enough to
There you
trigger
go.
some into hurting their kid, though, you know?
Yeah, but
As
if
a
they're getting the same message every single day, and everyone's getting the same message, yeah, the school's in compliance with the law, and no one gets outed.
As a teacher, though, I did 14 years as a teacher, so I feel like I can speak for all teachers. No, I freaking can't. I can't speak for all teachers. I can only speak for me. For one thing, I'm mostly Irish, so if I hear something that could hurt someone, I didn't hear that. That didn't happen. Didn't hear it. Have no idea what you're talking about. Secondly, also not saying break the law, just saying this is how I would react if I lived in Florida and was still a teacher. And the other thing is, how do you prove it? You know,
Yeah.
I don't know. Johnny seemed a little swishy today. Like what? I mean, what does that even mean?
Microphones and cameras. Microphones and cameras in every room so they can hear everything that you're saying. And the second that some kid says gay, we're going to know that you didn't report it. That's the only way you can enforce
Here
it.
comes the anti-rainbow SWAT team with their AK-47s, just gonna, you know, cart all the kids off to a death game.
Happily getting arrested. And again, not a teacher anymore, but if that happened to me in a classroom, I would happily get arrested for that. And you guys know how I feel about jail, that I'm terrified of it, but I would happily get arrested.
Last I heard, the Don't Say Gay bill passed both our state house and Senate, and DeSantis is definitely going to sign it because he's just the worst.
Krabby Hermit, we're talking about the just a minute, Julie. Krabby Hermit, we're talking about the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida. That's what we're discussing. And there is a very similar provision in a bill in Alabama with regards to transgender students. There's a bill that would require all schools to out any child that exhibits any behavior that could be considered transgender. Although that one has not passed at this point. Go ahead. Sorry, Julie.
It's disgusting.
What does that? No, you're fine. I'm like, what does that even mean? I do have a question, Kitty, because you live there, and I have not had a chance between work and everything else to go into this, to do any research at all. So this might be a stupid question, and that's fine. But so can't say gay. Can you say queer? Can you say unusual? Can you say idiosyncratic? Can you say what's the word for people who are I'm looking for it. Not quite fit into the norm, but eccentric. Can you say that?
Well,
You can
when
say,
we don't say
you can say
gay,
that person is really, really happy.
Of the English language work, because I'm very confused, and I'm
So-
also confused because it's totally it's against the Constitution, because again, freedom of speech. But go ahead.
basically what it boils down to is the legislature isn't the one that named it the Don't Say Gay bill. It's because of what's in it. It got labeled that by people that oppose it. But it is a catchy thing,
Right.
so that's why everyone's calling it that now. It basically says, you know, in like science classes, you know, sociology class, like history class, you're not allowed to talk about like, you know, gayness at all. You're not allowed to.
Alexander the Great was bisexual. Oh,
that would be left out. It would be straight washed, you know.
So he just drank himself to death for no reason. It wasn't because,
yeah,
you know,
basically,
of a certain person dying.
Julie,
health
I
class would be heteronormative cis het. So yeah, health class is only going to be heteronormative cis het stuff. Like, and again, as bad as that is, if that was where it was, I mean, I'd still obviously be opposed to it, but it wouldn't be quite as dangerous. I mean, yes, it would be bad for people like us to not feel seen or valid or get the information in health class that we need, you know, in order to stay safe. However, the provision requiring outing, that will get kids killed.
Yeah, well,
because there are very conservative religious families that have very strong oppositions to homosexuality because of their religion and their child being outed to them. The number one fastest growing demographic of homeless child are trans children. But, you know, other queer children are right up there. It's the worst for the trans kids, but just LGBTQ in general, they are, you know, the largest block of homeless children. And that's not even the worst thing that can happen. Ending up homeless and disowned is not the worst that can happen. The worst is your parent literally fucking kills you.
Yeah.
And it happens all the time. And we already have, you know, a shortage of teachers. And how many teachers are going to say, I am there for my students. I am someone that I want them to feel that I am a safe place that they can talk. But because of this, being put in that situation where you could be imprisoned or fined, lose your job, it might just be better to cut your losses and find a different profession. If you are, and those would be the good teachers that we wouldn't want to lose.
I would like to take a moment to not change the subject, but advance the discussion.
Please.
Some of you out in the chat, I would hope all of you out in the chat, and maybe some of us here on the panel, are you familiar with Bo of the Fifth Column?
Yes, love Bo of the Fifth Column.
Okay,
I watch him all the time.
I
He's great.
Encourage you greatly to go to his YouTube page and to look up his video about constitutional rights in the state of Georgia.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's the actual title, but it's only come out in the last week or two. So if you had to watch 2 weeks of Bo, it's not going to hurt you.
Yeah, it's not. I saw that one.
What's going on is that they are putting together a series of laws that they will pass and they will sign because they're Georgia. That basically are going to remove your right to privacy in the Constitution. Okay, now the Constitution does not say anywhere that you have the right to privacy. The word is just not in any of the language of the Constitution. But there's been enough Supreme Court decisions about privacy that it is a given that we have a right to privacy. Roe versus Wade was decided on the basis of privacy. And they're trying to take that away so that, oh boy, trans people can be arrested for whatever the fuck they want and executed and all kinds of things like that. It absolutely bears taking the time to go listen to Bo, because it's the next round, folks.
Yeah. And you know what?
Jenni-
I'm not going to say a name or anything. Don't worry. I'm not going to get I'm not going to get this video suppressed, but let's just say that along with yellow stars, there were pink triangles, y'all, if you don't know your history.
Jenni, I have a question for you. I got into an argument with a gender critical the other day, and this person was trying, and they came up with an argument I had never heard before, and you've heard it all, so I'm sure you have. And that was, you're trying to put trans children through conversion therapy if you're forcing them to change their gender. And I'm going, what? And they're claiming that transgenderism is just the new conversion therapy, and the way to exterminate the homosexuals by making them convert to be trans instead.
Where their argument falls apart is at the very beginning of it, within the first few words. Detransition or conversion therapy is conversion therapy because it is not voluntary. Whereas being treated for being trans is absolutely voluntary.
Okay.
Yeah, and also for two, as someone who likes all the chocolates in the box, that you can't like that. That's just, I mean, if I had different equipment, I'm going to be very careful in choosing my words, Granny, because I respect you.
You
and
can use the P word. I mean, that's a medical term.
I really wanted to. Okay, because I like pussy and dick. You know, I like both, and I'm cool with whatever. It's, you know, for just the thought of that is so nuts, and it's the same thing for anyone. Oh dear, my spouse, my partner just posted something right when I said pussy and dick. Anyway, but the fact is that if you understand your sexuality and where it goes, you know there's no change in that. It's like I sometimes when straight people, when I've had conversations with receptive straight people about this kind of stuff, and they're genuinely confused because they've been indoctrinated to think that trans is a choice and being bi is a choice, everything's a choice. And I said, and I always say, well, when did you choose to be heterosexual? And I mean, I know I'm not the first person to say it, but it's such a simple thing, and their jaws genuinely drop. And they think about it, and they're like, well, I've just always liked women, or I've just always liked men. And I'm like, well, there you go. Me too. I had a crush on my friend Melanie and my friend Jason at the same time when I was 7 years old. Don't know.
Julie, did you see Ox's comment?
You can buy the equipment you need. That is true, Ox. You absolutely can.
Go ahead.
Here's my funny story about that. So when I presented feminine, I identified as a lesbian because at that time I was only attracted to women and feminine people, and then I start testosterone, and I have never been attracted to masculinity until I started testosterone. So any arguments that are saying
that's interesting. That's
like,
really
so I just got more gay with testosterone. So it doesn't even, maybe your sexuality and your gender are different things. And also that your hormones don't really have anything to do with it. They might, but they also might not. And like, why do we care so much?
Exactly. And I go ahead.
No, I tend to see like sexuality as a spectrum. Like, and you know, I roll my eyes at the super straight people because I'm like, you're compensating. Like, obviously you've got some issues. But there are people that, you know, will swear that they're straight, but they don't go, you know, like all on there. But then, you know, I think that a lesbian could still fall in love with a man, you know, and have a fulfilling relationship, and vice versa. Like, because our emotions and our bonds with people and our attractions to them, like, because we're not just attracted to the genitalia of the
Mm-hmm.
people that we have fun times with, that we want to have sex with. Like, there's more to it than that. It's a very complex issue, and it's not a one size fits all.
Mm-hmm.
And that they want to put it into these just little tiny little boxes, but I guarantee you nobody is as straight or as gay as they think they are. They might not have met a person that gets them questioning, because they think they are, but then something comes along and boom, out of left field, you realize that your sexuality is not what you always thought it was. And that's not a bad thing. It's okay to learn more about yourself as you grow as a person, because we are always evolving. We're not choosing these things, but we can discover things about ourselves that we didn't know previously. Just because you didn't know that you were not straight as a child, that you might have been bisexual, pansexual, or gay, like, it's not invalid, just like if you knew from a very early age, like I did, that I had a crush on the pink Power Ranger and on the green/white Power Ranger at the same time. So, just
Kitty,
saying, like,
that is
I knew.
exactly what happened to me. I always thought I was just a little bit weird until someone told me the meaning of the word asexual. And I went, oh my gosh, that's what I am.
And there's nothing wrong
I don't
with that.
find anyone attractive.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
It's wonderful that you found that, and like, that's valid, and it's good that you found that, because now you can be your more true, authentic self, understanding yourself, because we should always be on a journey of discovery about ourselves, to not only be the best person we can in regards to society, and this is just my libtard side coming out, egalitarian socialist, but like, I also think that we should try to be good to ourselves and not do harm to ourselves, because living a lie or forcing yourself into a box that you do not conform to is actually doing harm to you. You may not see it or recognize it, but it is. Like,
Oh my God,
you should never be forced to do anything. You should discover naturally and organically what is best and what works for you, be that with your sexuality or even the things you like to do in the bedroom. Like, you'd be surprised how many people think that they missionary is perfect, there's nothing better, and then they end up going with me down to a kink club, going to a dungeon. So, like, you never know. Like, it's good to explore all sides of yourself and to live your most authentic self possible.
Yeah.
Love
And
yourself,
it shouldn't be anyone else's business, and certainly not legislated or the government's business.
Right. And we did that case. Gosh, Jenny, help me. I can't even remember the name of it. The Sodomy Case in the 1970s.
Oh God.
I'll look it up. It was a landmark case, and suddenly I can't remember the name of it.
Fuck. There was a very important premise in that case.
Lawrence versus Texas.
Yeah. What was the defense argument?
Let's see. It's a Texas case. Texas was saying that same-sex activity needs to be illegal, and that they had a constitutional right, or they had a right to find this to be criminal behavior.
And the plaintiff's point was,
and the plaintiffs was privacy rights. We have a right to privacy and to do what we want in the privacy of our own home. Oh, Griswold versus
that was
Connecticut.
fairly recent. Up until that time, you
Right.
could have been arrested and jailed because you owned a dildo.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Actually, there's a lot, and I'm not going to say anything specific because Junk Shop is watching, and they will be like, you said that on the internet, and it's there forever. And no, there are a lot of I'm just going to say similar laws in my state, and it's bizarre because you can go to a store in the state and buy the thing, but technically using the thing is technically illegal, but no one enforces it because there's more important things like murder to deal with. So
adultery was illegal under the Uniform Code of Military Justice into the 1980s. It wasn't
I'm
until the
actually
mid-'80s
surprised.
that they finally got rid of that as a criminal penalty.
I'm actually kind of surprised that's not still illegal in terms of court martial.
They've got better
but yeah.
things to do than to look for soldiers that are committing adultery.
They-
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
no, that was it.
All right. Did Julie freeze up or did I?
No, it's been
She's
frozen
junk
for me too.
shopping.
Okay,
Yeah.
she's junk shopping.
She was junk shopping.
Makes sense.
Mhm.
Yep, it does make sense.
All right. Yeah, obviously there's a lot that we could talk about on that topic, but I would like to move on to Ukraine and talk a little bit about what's going on there, people's opinions on the boycotts, the planes. Oh, here, our wonderful former president made the astoundingly astute remark that what we should do about Ukraine is we should paint Chinese flags on the sides of F-22s and go and bomb the hell out of Russia. Now, the fact that our former president doesn't know that an F-22 is a fighter plane, not a bomber plane, is first of all problematic. And why go with China? I mean, why not just paint an alien logo on it? Make them think that aliens are invading the Earth.
I mean, to be honest, like even if it worked and we lived in some fucking toon reality a la Who Framed Roger Rabbit, like you would still be sparking a war between two nuclear armed powers. And that would basically be the end of the fucking world. That's why, while my heart goes out to Zelensky, who has brass balls of steel, like that man is amazing, like that infamous quote now you can get on a t-shirt of, the fighting's here. I need ammunition, not a ride, like just kudos to that guy. I understand why he's asking for a no-fly zone over Ukraine. I get
Mhm.
it, but we can't do it. And there was just a poll, and they were showing above or underwater. So it was 20 points above water. So if I recall, that means 70% of people agreed that were polled that we should institute a no-fly zone. But I don't think they realize what that means, because if we were to institute a no-fly zone over Ukraine, that means that the United States or NATO would say, Russia, you can't fly here. And then Russia will obviously fly there, and then we shoot down the Russian planes. And then that's World War III.
Yeah.
And we can't have World War III. And it's terrifying because Putin has already let slip that, if we were to institute a no-fly zone, he might get a little bit, trigger happy with the nukes. And that's terrifying because as soon as one nuclear missile launches, we're all dead. Like it's sayonara, good night, like, so long and thanks for all the fish to humanity. We probably deserve it, but that's not the point. And I don't know if he's gone like legitimately unhinged or if it's just, the madman theory of you basically pretend to be crazy, when you're a nuclear power in order to get others to kowtow and do what you want. But most recently, he's saying that the only way that, he'll stop the fighting is if Ukraine, first and foremost, puts in their constitution that they will never join NATO, acknowledges Crimea and the Donbass region as Russian, and puts down all of their weapons, and which is stupid because I'm sorry, you're attacking them. You want them to just put down their weapons while you continue to attack them? What? No. And there's also rumors that are floating around that he's also going to demand that either Zelensky steps down or there is a Russian a Russian sympathizer that is put in a position of power as well. So he would basically be president in name only, and have like a very like Russian positive prime minister. That's just a rumor right now. It wasn't in the official demands, but it's absolutely terrifying. And I don't know what we're going to do. Like, with the sanctions and everything like that, like, I'm all for, like, taking away resources and yachts and villas from the oligarchs. They broke up the Soviet Union to enrich themselves, and they helped, lead us to this current situation that we're in right now. However, now Visa, MasterCard aren't working in Russia. Google and Apple Pay are not working in Russia. You don't have billionaire oligarchs using those. It's the everyday people, and the sanctions that we're putting on them, like, yes, it will hurt the oligarchs some, but it's mostly going to hurt the people, and people are already protesting in Russia that they don't want this war, and they're being locked up. And some are even now, they're trying to pass a law there quickly that if you are caught protesting, you basically get shipped out to the front lines.
We saw one woman on the news the other day, though, that was being interviewed, that she said she didn't believe any of this was really happening.
Yep.
She was buying all of the the Russian propaganda hook, line, and sinker, and she did not believe that Russia had invaded Ukraine. And I think that a lot of the sanctions hitting everybody is going to wake them up to the fact that, number one, yes, this is real. They really did invade Ukraine. And two, the rest of the world is goddamn angry.
Yeah.
And we're not going to stand for it. And if you want to stand and, invade Ukraine, fine, you're standing alone. The rest of the world is going to absolutely isolate you.
I mean, for fuck's sake, even Switzerland and Sweden, who are traditionally neutral, like Switzerland didn't even take sides in World War II. And that involved, Mr., I'm going to kill people. Like, they didn't take sides, but they are this time. They're just like,
when
so this
Switzerland says you fucked up, you done fucked up. Okay? Like, I mean, like, you're absolutely right, Kitty.
Those two are breaking 250 years worth of tradition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That tells you how insane this is right now.
Problematic tradition, but yeah, absolutely. And yeah, just to piggyback on what Kitty was saying, like, and what Granny was saying, one of the most brilliant things that's happening is that I don't know if you guys have probably seen the videos, because we all try to stay fairly well informed, but time and medical school and all kinds of things. But like some of the videos of just Ukrainian women and families going up to Russian soldiers and saying, hey, do you want to use my cell phone to call your mother? Because she doesn't know that you're here. And you might want to tell her, and also here's some hot tea and here's a sandwich. This is one of the things that they're doing. Just regular people. And they're going up to the and I saw one that was filmed by some affiliate that came down through like NPR and PBS here, and this poor young man. I mean, and by the way, the what Kitty was saying about the Russian army is absolutely true. It's conscripted. They conscript 16 years old to 50, I think that's correct. And so you can literally be just like yanked off a bus and told you're in the army now. Now we know from our own history that an all volunteer army or military period is much better than a conscripted military. Because those folks are motivated. They're like, this is what I signed up for. I'll do it. It's, it is what it is. But these guys, like, not only were they told they were going into a training exercise, most of them had no idea they were going to go into actual combat. And they're terrified kids. And when they call their moms, they cry. And they tell their mothers where they really are. And then you've got Ukrainian people like telling them, tell your mother to tell everyone she knows, tell her to call your CO, tell her to protest if she can, like, and they are, and protesters, yes, are being dragged off to prison in Russia, absolutely, en masse. But it's just like the people of Russia, what we're seing anyway is that the majority of people in Russia do not want this. And also Putin might be able to shut down FB in Russia, but does he not know that there's like more social media out there that like there's other stuff. There's Twitch. There's all these other things that people can be on. He's so bad at this.
I mean, ultimately, when it comes down to it, it is tragic. There was reporting of a phone that was found on a dead Russian soldier, and it, was the last message to his mom. She thought he was still in military training and was saying that she was going to be sending him a package and wanted to make sure, like, she didn't know. And he was like, Mom, it's bad. Like, we're killing everybody. Like, it's bad. I'm in Ukraine right now. And I mean, it's tragic, and I mean, there's no way to verify that that's not, a propaganda thing, but ultimately it's not that if that specific message is true, it's still a sentiment that a lot of people in Russia don't, like Gigi was saying, like they watch the Russian state news, they watch the propaganda, they don't believe it's actually happening. So, there are going to be messages, if not that specific one, similar ones. And Putin did not expect this to be a drawn out thing. He was planning on doing a blitzkrieg thing. He thought they would just give up like they did with Crimea. He wasn't expecting little grandmas to be walking around with sunflower seeds saying, fuck you interlopers, here, take these so at least when you die, the flowers will grow. Sunflowers being the flower of Ukraine.
Yeah, when you die on our land, something will grow from your body. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So good.
The signs that Ukrainians are holding up that say the Russian soldiers' pronouns are was, were. Which it's dark. It's gallows humor, but it is kind of funny.
I'd be really interested in knowing how many Russian soldiers have died in this conflict. That's
we'll
one
know.
piece of information, that is not out there.
Yeah,
I mean, we'll likely never know. But when it comes down to it, Russia does, like, the Ukrainians are outgunned by the Russians. However, with their supply chain issues and their logistical issues, it's not going the way that Putin expected. He was shock and awe, blitzkrieg, go in, take over, they give up, it's fine. Now, we are the most powerful military in the world. And, conquering a country is not that hard. And eventually Russia will take over the major cities in eastern Ukraine. But occupying it is a separate thing. Just look at us and our occupation of Afghanistan and Iraq. Like, it did not go well for us.
Graveyard of Empires, yeah.
But when it comes down to it, like, it didn't go well for us. And the Ukrainians are, more armed and equipped than the Afghanis were. And we are more powerful in our military might than Russia. So it's a losing battle for Putin because it wasn't that blitzkrieg. It wasn't over and done in, before the rest of the world could tie their shoelaces, like that's what he thought he would be. He would go and he would conquer it before the rest of the world was able to implement anything. And then at that point, well, what can you do? You can do some sanctions, but if the Ukrainians just gave up, kind of like the Afghan army gave up when we withdrew from Afghanistan, they just kind of said, what, we're done.
I think he forgot the internet exists. I don't know. But it's like, dude, we all know what's going on. There's footage, tons of footage. So many reporters and investigative journalists are risking their lives to be there and document everything. It's just, yeah, you're absolutely right. I think maybe he thought this would be an easy thing, and it's like, no, man, we've been watching for you to do this forever. I mean, going back like more than a decade, I had students who were exchange students, and one of them, I just noticed she missed the definite article once in a paper, and I just wrote on the paper as a comment, like, would your first language happen to be Russian? And she came back and we taught. She stayed behind after class the next day. She got a great grade on the paper. She was an amazing student, and she said, yes, my first, with no hint of an accent, by the way. Yes, my first language is Russian, but I need you to know that I am not Russian. And I said, are you from Ukraine by any chance? And she said, yes, I am. It's like, it's a serious thing.
And like, here's another thing. Like, people, there's a few reasons why Putin is doing this. One, he has aspirational goals to basically reconstitute the Soviet Union. When he gave his speech, it was very clear, in his speech, like the first half of it was literally grievances against Ukraine of, the Soviet Union built them up. They, everything they are is because of the Soviet Union. They, are a fake state, essentially. He didn't get to the NATO expansion until the second half of his long rambling tirade. But there's also the fact of Russia's main export is fuel. It is oil and natural gas. And Germany, had the deal for the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. And those natural gases, not only do they travel through Ukraine, where they actually had to pay money, to be able to send their stuff through Ukraine. Russia had to pay Ukraine for that. But also, right before he took over Crimea, literally like a year or two before, they found natural gas off the coast of Crimea. And the area, like the Donbass region of eastern Ukraine, that he had his sights set on before he decided, fuck it, we'll just take it all. They have oil and natural gas as well. And it is literally about money and power, partially, and partially about reconstituting the glory of the empire that was the Soviet Union.
Yep. And access to certain parts of the Black Sea. Was that the right one? Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
One of the things that I found most heartwarming was the number of people that are booking Airbnbs in Ukraine and saying, by the way, I'm not coming. I just want to make sure that you still have an income while you are under siege.
Yeah. Well, you're fighting for kith and kin and land and country. Yeah, absolutely.
Did you guys hear there was an 11-year-old boy that his family were near one of the nuclear power plants, and his mom could not leave with him because her mother was not able to be, was ill or something, and was not able to be transported. So she literally put him on a bus to send him to, I think, Latvia. And this 11-year-old boy went 700 miles on his own with a phone number written on his hand so that he could be reunited with his family in another country. And I don't know if anyone watches Dancing with the Stars, but one of the professional dancers on that, Maxim, he is Ukrainian, and he was actually in Ukraine when the war started, filming essentially a reality show there. And he said in an interview that he got on a bus and he was getting out of town. I think they were headed to Poland. And he said what really broke him, seeing devastation and stuff, that didn't do it. It was when he was on the bus and an 8-year-old boy, there was an 8-year-old boy getting on the bus, and the father was putting him there and wasn't coming. And the boy started screaming and crying, saying, no, I want to stay with you, because if something happens to you, I can't help you if I'm not there. And that's just fucking gut-wrenching. An 8-year-old fucking child should not have to see that. This is supposed to be an enlightened age where we as a species should have progressed past these types of things. There's really no need. There's enough resources in the world. Before, yeah, you would have conflicts over resources. There's enough resources to take care of everybody on the planet as is right now. It's just, greed prevents that from happening. And so no child should have to fucking hug their parent not knowing if they're going to see them again. Or no child should have to be put on a bus in a fucking war zone and sent hundreds and hundreds of miles away by themselves, knowing that any risk that is posed to that child is fractional compared to if they stayed put. It just...
No child should have to lose their childhood at 8 or 11.
No, absolutely not. It's fucking
But that's what
devastating.
war does. That is
It
what
is.
war does. Yeah.
War is ugly.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And it affects the most vulnerable the most.
Mm-hmm.
That was a terrible sentence, but yeah.
Let's move on to our final topic for the night.
No, wait
Yes,
a minute.
please.
sorry,
Wait a
go
minute.
ahead.
Wait a
Go
minute.
ahead,
Hold
Jenni.
on.
Go ahead, Jenni.
Hold on. We've gotten talked over here for the whole thing. It's my turn to say something.
Okay, go ahead.
It is, Jenni.
I
You're
think
right.
it's very interesting to look at all the basic three issues that we have covered here tonight. And for the heck of it, let's throw rape in. Because you notice that the one thing that these all have in common is not about their individual topics. It's about one side taking power over the other.
Mm-hmm.
That all of it is all this crap that goes on in our lives and in the world is by people who want to control others. It is the control freaks that are the cause of all this, whether they're religiously based or politically based. It doesn't matter. They're control freaks, and that is what we're fighting. The bullies from the playground.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Agreed.
And before we move on, in case anybody was wondering, this Cyrillic right here, it translates to Slava Ukraini, which is basically glory to Ukraine. It is a phrase that actually, when they were under Soviet Union occupation, it was banned. It was illegal. So it is something you will hear in the protests that happen in Ukraine a lot. Glory to Ukraine, and it would be said in greeting, and then the response would be glory to the heroes. So if there's anything that anyone can do to help Ukraine, I know there are a lot of charities that are helping. They are also taking volunteers. In fact, even some in the atheist community here have volunteered to go over there. They're retired military, and they volunteered to go over there, and very well might be. If you are in a position to be able to help in any way, please do. I mean, you could go for humanitarian reasons if you're not a fighter, helping to get people evacuated, helping take care of people in shelters. They are looking for people, and they are paying for plane tickets for you to go there if you are in a position that you can. So just consider it, and just keep them in your thoughts, and don't stop talking about it. Don't let Russia win a propaganda war by not bringing it to the attention. I mean, the whole world knows, but we don't want this to get swept under the rug, and we don't want people calling for stupid things that will get us into World War III and doom the entire species. So if someone says, hey, we need troops on the ground, tell them no, that's World War III. If someone says we need a no-fly zone, tell them no, that's World War III.
Yeah.
Just make sure you get accurate information out there, and let people know what's going on really, and what the consequences of different actions would be.
Yeah, if anyone says that the Biden administration is being weak or not quick enough to act, that's because they are walking a very tight rope. That's because they are trying desperately to be on the side of the Ukrainian people and on the side of Zelensky while not causing World War III. And this is, I mean, any of you who are old enough to remember the Cold War, these are the nightmares we had as children or as young people. And it definitely I mean, the relief that I felt when the USSR disbanded in the 90s, I can't even express. I can't express it in words. I've tried to write about it. I can't. But it was like there was a sword of Damocles hanging over my head my entire life. And then suddenly that sword was gone.
And now it's back.
And now it's back. And I'm like, I didn't think I'd see this again in my lifetime. And when I said 3 minutes to midnight a minute ago, I was referring to the atomic clock. I doubt it's 3. It's probably 1 or 30 seconds. I don't know. But if you know that term, if you know what it is, or if you don't,
that term.
I know that term.
There you go. Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. So.
Yeah, we'll move to our final topic of the night, and I do not want anyone to name any names. That is not the intent here. But I do want to talk about some of the rifts that have occurred in the atheist community. Some of them have been over some legitimately bad things that some people have done. and some of them have not. And so, without naming any names or going any details about any specific people, I'm generally interested in everyone's thoughts on how are we doing as a community?
I'm concerned. I don't like it when we fight. I don't like it when Mama and Daddy fight. But no, just but just in general, like I feel like we should, we're such a I mean, looking at this panel tonight, we don't look like a minority, but there's a lot of minorities represented here, y'all. Definitely sexual minorities, for sure. But also, like, just the fact that we can get our panties in such a wad over our shared null hypothesis never ceases to amaze me. I'm like, it's just okay. This person said something messed up. Don't listen to their channel anymore, or don't bother with that. Like, why does that bother? Or someone had someone on their channel that you don't like. Oh darn. Okay, we're gonna disagree on stuff. It's fine. That's healthy, but don't like the whole calling out. I mean, on one level, like if we're talking about seriously egregious stuff, like if we're talking about someone who is, I don't know, committed a horrible crime or something, yes, call that person out and say, you know what, this person says they're an atheist and says that they're with us. We just want everyone to know that we do not accept that. That's fair. But beyond that, the petty grievances, it's like, guys, we're humans. We're all different. We're going to have different notions about things. And I don't think that petty disagreements should break everybody up. It's like, let's, I mean, if you have an issue with me, send a DM, talk to me about it. I'm happy to talk to you about it. But if it's something that I don't know much about and can't really respond to, I'll tell you that too. I'm like, okay, what should I look up? But I don't like it, and I don't see how it serves us as a
Can I jump in on this too? Because this is like exactly the direction where I was going with this as well. And like the big thing I see along the same lines is like, because again, it is totally okay to not like everybody in the community. You don't have to be best friends with everybody. There are going to be people that you just don't mesh with, and that's fine. You don't have to interact with them. You don't have to go on streams with them. You can just walk away. But you don't have to tell other people to not be friends with somebody else. And you don't get to play these abusive mind games of like, I'm not going to associate with you anymore because you went on this person's channel. Like, and I'm not going to, like, the degrees of association, like, if someone's not in, I mean, certain cases, if you know that they're involved in something, like, it's okay to approach somebody and say, hey, I have concerns. Like, this is an experience I had, like, privately or whatever. Like, you can communicate about things. But like, that doesn't mean that you get to just like blast this person to the whole world because they did something you didn't like necessarily. Like, you can talk about it like adults. And if they choose to move on in a direction you don't want to go with them on, okay, fine. You don't have to interact with them anymore. But like, because it drives me up a wall a little bit. It's like, you don't get to police other people. Like,
it's the same tyranny. It's the same tyranny we've been talking about all night.
I mean, there have been times I've gone to people in private and said, hey, this person, like, they did this thing, or I have concerns about this. If the person that I talk to in private still associates with that other person, I'm not going to stop talking to them for it. We'll have person A is the one that I'm talking to, person B is the one that is problematic. I'm still not going to associate with person B, but if person A is still associating with them, that's their choice to make. I might say, hey, I'm not going to come on a stream if person B is going to be there, because I don't want to associate with that person. And that should be respected too. It should go both ways. But I do think that, there's a difference between like petty drama and actually calling out problematic behavior. because like just the, oh, I don't like them, or they said something I didn't like, that's one thing. But there is a lot of toxicity in the atheist community. And when it comes down to it, it's not a monolith. The only thing that we all agree on is that we don't believe in a god or gods. So, I mean, it is a very like, vast diaspora of, people and that are under the atheist umbrella. But I have noticed that, especially, as a woman in the atheist community, there is a lot of misogyny. And there is a lot of toxicity in that vein where, women like that go to atheist conventions are, harassed or, worse. And just treated in not so nice of a way. And it does seem kind of like that good old boys club where they tend to cover for each other or not call each other out even when it is something that is egregious. Or, in other aspects where you find out things that have nothing to do, with the atheist community, but it's something that a person did, like say have a felony conviction for abusing a child. And, I think that if that is, if they have a felony conviction, then you should probably, talk about that, because I wouldn't want to have somebody on that, got a felony conviction in Texas or Oklahoma for abusing a child, because like, I mean, in California, you could like get, in trouble for spanking your child, to get to the point, and like it was a physical abuse, like hurting a child like physically. Like to get that in Oklahoma though, where, they don't have any like anti-spanking laws, like you have to really fucking try to be a shithead to get to that level. And so when it's something like that, I do think that we have a responsibility as a community to call those kinds of things out and shine a light on them, because if you don't, then they just continue. I mean, it still happened, but if nobody knows, then this person might be considered, a pillar of the community, but they have these, skeletons in their closet, for lack of a better term. And I do think we should be a little bit more self-policing, but that's just my opinion on the matter.
No, I mean, I agree. I mean, there are people I would not platform, knowing what I know now, but also there's a lot of stuff we don't know and about each other necessarily, and a lot of that just stems with there are so many hours in the day, and so but like some of the examples, Kitty, that you just put forward or hypothetical. I don't know if they're hypothetical or not. We should talk later. But like some of that stuff, yeah, I'd absolutely be like, oh no, I would never have that person. Like I even have a channel anymore, but you know what I mean. Like I would never have them on my channel. But there are other people that like are seen as I don't know. Anyway, basically, I just if it's a difference in opinion that does not involve harming anyone, and this is where I go back to my like 20 years of being all Wiccan and shit, where I'm like, hey, and harm none, do whatever, I don't care.
Do what you will, harm none, bitches.
Do what you will, yeah. I mean, it's like, hey, as long as you're not hurting anybody, I'm cool with it. But if you're hurting someone, and you can hurt someone with words, you can hurt whole groups of people with words, absolutely. But if I don't know that you're doing that, yeah, let me know. But also, if someone else doesn't know that you did that or you've done that, I'm not gonna. And this is like now we've gotten to like 3 degrees of separation, right? Where we've got like person A who maybe said the harmful thing, and person B who maybe was like, hey, I'm going to interview this person who said a harmful thing 2 years ago that I don't even know about. And then we've got person C who like threw up a comment during that interview that was fairly benign. It's like, okay, where does it stop? Like this is getting a little nuts. And Junk Shop and I, our one of our mantras, for lack of a better word, is we don't do drama. We don't do it. We don't get into the petty stuff. If somebody is clearly harmful, if they are clearly homophobic, transphobic, if they are clearly, white supremacist. We're like, fuck off, I don't want to know you. But beyond that, it's like we also don't go around, bad mouthing them, because I don't want to get into it. I don't want to, because for all I know, they might have an army of followers that can shut down my channel. But also, I don't care enough to get involved. Is that fucked up to say that?
Yeah, that's
Well,
okay.
It's like high school, man. It's like,
And
I
I
don't
think
care about what's going on at the preppy table. I'm here with the freaks and geeks, and we don't give a shit. So I don't know what you're doing.
and I think something here too that is important to remember, and I think we forget this frequently, is that like these for the most part are parasocial relationships. Like there are a couple people in the community that I have met in person or that I have deep connections with, that I've had personal conversations with, but for the most part, like all you people, I barely know you. Like
Mhm.
this is more akin to a coworker relationship than it is like a deep friendship. It's like these are people that I see, like this is my workplace. Like if YouTube is my workplace, you are all people that happen to work in the same workplace, kind of in the same area where we all see each other. But it's like with your coworkers, you might have some that you get along with, some that you'll hang out with outside of work, but then other coworkers, it's like, yeah, we work together, but I don't know this person. Like they sit right next to me. I know a couple things about their family, maybe, but like you're not
You chat with
necessarily
them at the
friends.
water cooler,
Yeah,
of
it's like,
how was your weekend? Just banal
yeah,
stuff.
and it's just odd when if you apply that kind of logic to it. Like, yeah, okay, so I talked to this person at the water fountain, and now like person C over there, Charlie, is like, oh, I saw you talking with that person at the water fountain. That means you support everything that they do, and like, no, I'm just making good conversation with this dude at the water fountain. Like, I barely know this person. So, like, it's hard to navigate a lot of this, but at the same time, like, you can't always be in control of what information you know about somebody, and you shouldn't be held responsible for things that you couldn't possibly know about.
Mhm.
Like, and when you do, I mean, you can take actions after you know about things, but like, I mean, it's a weird line, and I think people forget that this isn't as clear of a thing as maybe we think it is sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you talk about crossing lines, like, the examples that y'all gave are very good. Like, yeah, if I found out that someone had a felony for abusing a child, that would be a whole nother kettle of fish. Finding out that someone said something I didn't like one day, so I stopped following them and watching their channel, that's a different thing. It's like, okay, no, you say whatever you want. I'm just not here to listen anymore because I don't like what you're saying and I think it's wrong. And
Oh yeah,
boom, done. That's
I've
it.
seen so
And
much.
that's all the bandwidth I have for it.
I've seen so much like that of people who, like, on that specific example of people who've said a thing that you don't like, where some person will say something that X person doesn't like, and then another person will be on a stream with the person that said something that other person doesn't like, and now that person is like trash talking the person that associated with the person that they didn't like. That's not a big deal. Like, and you can be on a stream with somebody and like for something small, like I don't like the color purple. Like, and if that made you angry,
then you're canceled.
it's like, if that made you angry, like, don't get mad at me because I went on a stream with someone who doesn't like the color purple and you were mad about that. Like, that's a ridiculous reason to go blast somebody. Like, and I see, like, of course there are the major issues. I've seen so much of like going behind people's backs, like because someone else said something petty, and then are going to other people's friends, not going to the person they had a problem with, going to that person's friends and trying to get those friends to cancel that person as well. Like, what are you doing? Why are we doing this?
I mean, I will say though, there's a line. Like, again, it's one of those things. If it's, say, the example which I see, people argue on Twitter back and forth about, like, atheist versus agnostic atheist. So it's basically atheism means you actively believe there's no God versus the more lacktheist of you just don't believe that there's a God. And like really getting into the nitpicks. Well, I say that atheist means lacktheist, so no belief in God, or I say atheist means believe there is no God, because there is the difference between the two.
Yes,
And
sir.
so I've
Gnostic
seen
implies
people
knowledge.
I've seen people snipe back and forth between stuff like that. So yeah, cool. Like obviously, like if I take personally take the lacktheist. Like when I say I'm an atheist, I mean I don't have any belief in any gods. So I mean, I know Godless Engineer would say like agnostic atheist. I have no knowledge of whether or not there is a God, but I don't believe in one. Like that's where I'm at. But then there are other people that would say that, oh no, you, by using the term atheist, are saying that you actively believe there's no God. That's a petty thing. So you want to have your differing beliefs on that. Fine. I don't care.
That's
I'm not
the
going to waste time
pineapple
on
on
it.
pizza argument. I mean, it's not
It
even a
is.
thing. It's
And
like, we
I
can
do like
talk about
pineapple on pizza. So cancel me now. But
it.
then there are times where people will say things that, you know, shine a light on their character. And I think that it is okay to tell other people in those situations, like if someone says something that's transphobic, for
Mhm.
example, like
Yeah.
you might not, I mean, hell, like the Don't Say Gay bill, the people that, put it up, their campaigns got money from Apple and from AT&T, and there and a lot of companies here. Disney
Oh,
had a chance
God.
to take a stand and say, "Hey, we want to protect, these kids. So if this goes through, then we're going to bounce out of Florida." No, it would be an empty threat. They'd never do that, but it would still be making a public stand. But their refusal to do so by just saying, we want to have an inclusive place for our cast members of all stripes, and we love them all so much, but we are not going to take a stand publicly on the Don't Say Gay bill. I mean,
Well, it's Disney.
it's
Yeah, it
so it's
sucks.
like,
I mean,
but
I wish they would,
companies,
but it sucks. I mean, then we can't expect much more. Honestly, I was surprised that they said that, frankly.
yeah, but so like AT&T or, Apple will have, in the month of June, they'll have rainbow flags on everything, but then they are also funding the campaigns of people that are passing legislation to make our lives harder. And there is a similar dynamic at play, though on a smaller scale, where, someone might seem like they're perfectly fine and everything, but, behind the scenes, they're saying things or doing things that would actually harm people, if they found out about it. You know what I mean? And so again, I think it all comes down to, if it is a petty thing, then don't worry about it. Just ignore it. It doesn't matter. But if it is something that is rooted in bigotry or in harming another person, again, pagan thing, do no harm, like Julie and I, we here. But honestly, like,
Yeah, I don't
I
believe in
think,
it, but I'm here for it.
but there's a way to go about it too. If you're going to talk to somebody about it, have an adult conversation in private. It's not something to be blasted on a stream. It's not something to be blasted on Twitter. If that, like, say if I knew that Ben was friends with somebody that, seemed perfectly accepting of trans people, but then said some really horrible transphobic shit, maybe offline in a stream or in a phone call or something like that. Like, I don't think it would be wrong to go to Ben and say, "Hey, dude, this is what happened." Not passing judgment to Ben on what, it's just, here's the information, do with it what you will. And it would be a
Okay.
conversation in private.
Okay. Jenni has not had an opportunity to weigh in on this
Sorry.
topic. Jenni, what are your thoughts?
Well, I am an atheist, but I'm not part of the community, so I really don't have much to comment on. I know many people in the community, and maybe my not knowing anything is a philosophy that a lot of others could take on, that don't get involved in online drama. Just don't do it. It's not worth anybody's energy. It's toxic, and it just creates a bad situation for everyone. Drama is such bullshit. It's adolescent. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. And
Yeah.
and for this to be going on in the atheist community, it's, for me, is the same kind of energy you get from somebody attacking a person who is asexual for being asexual.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what can you possibly be protesting about with this person? You mean you're expecting them to have sex? Is that what the problem is here? It's just so silly to be arguing about this kind of stuff.
One other point that I would like to bring out is, not the situation you were talking about, Kitty, but someone who is very upfront about the fact that, hey, I have a past and I did something horrible in the past and I went to prison. I am out of prison. I have paid my debt to society. I think that there is room to include a person like that in the community, even if what they did is absolutely horrendous, because people
Agree.
do make mistakes. And, I don't think punishment for anything should be forever.
Absolutely. That's why I like hell, because it's infinite punishment for finite crime. I do believe that you can be rehabilitated, that you can have redemption and second chances, but you have to actually work for it. You can't just expect someone to wipe your slate clean, to remove the red from your ledger, so to speak. Like if say,
I think you have to be open about it.
Yeah. To not name a name in our community, but Liam Neeson, right? I mean, he came out about this story that from this moment that happened in his youth, and it was horrible. And I know I'm hearing the intakes of breath. Yeah, it was fucking horrible. But he was talking at a press junket about how he realized now, years later, how wrong he was as an angry young man in that moment, and how racist he was. And he didn't realize that until later. And then he just got so much hate for that. And it's like, guys, he was saying mea culpa. He was saying, I have since learned I was completely wrong, and I am sharing this openly with everyone because at some point we've all been completely wrong about something.
Yeah, and we should allow for growth. We should allow people to, get redemption. It's like if somebody, when they were younger, vehicular homicide, like they were drinking and driving and they killed somebody and they went to prison for it. They've paid their debt. If, they're not drinking anymore, or not drinking and driving, obviously. If they're, doing community service, even though they don't have to, like going and talking to schools saying, hey, this could happen to you. Like, do not drink and drive. Like they have obviously learned from their mistakes, because we are fallible creatures. We are not perfect. We all make mistakes, and there are varying degrees of mistakes. And a lot of people do stupid things, that can cause serious harm. But I do think that, once you've, if you end up going to prison, once you've served your time, that's that. But you have to actually seek that redemption. You can't just like try to pretend it didn't happen. Like the person I mentioned before, the felony child abuse, they pretended like that didn't happen. They never brought it up. They never mentioned it. Someone found out about it and did some digging and was like, oh shit. Like they tried to just keep that in the closet. And like that is where I feel they don't deserve, a second chance until they actually, say the mea culpa and say I was wrong. I did this thing, and I need to make a difference, and try to change things, rather than just pretend like it didn't happen. And because then you're just deceiving everyone if you're not open and honest about it.
And I will take like open and honest about, hey, this is the moment when I was a piece of shit, because you don't get to be, what am I now, 44? Yeah, I'm 44. And you don't get to live this long on this planet without having been a piece of shit at some point. And I could tell y'all, I'm not going to do it right now, Granny, don't worry. But I could tell y'all stories about like moments in my life where I've been a piece of shit and not understood, someone who was other, and been awful. But, luckily for me, the internet didn't exist in the way it does now when I was a teenager. So none of that's on the record. But yeah, no, absolutely. Like if people are not willing to admit that they did something wrong, that's one thing. If they say, hey, I did this really messed up thing once when I was young and reacting, or not even young, when I was reacting to a situation that I couldn't stand, you know, to go back to the Liam Neeson example, like he was reacting to the sexual assault of a dear friend of his. And so he was just on some kind of weird machismo, like, you know, kick of I have to go fix it, but I don't know how to fix it because I don't know the guy who actually did the damage. And I'm just gonna ask, like, I don't know about y'all, but like there's stuff I've never told men in my family about that's happened to me because I don't want the men in my family to go to prison. And I know how they'd react. So it just
Okay, that is not exactly where I would have liked to have stopped this conversation, but that's okay. But we are really out of time, and it's almost time for B's stream as well. So we need to wrap this up. And I want to let everyone take an opportunity to say what they have coming up or shill for something, and then we'll cut out. So Kitty, go ahead and go first.
Go to B's stream after this. He's a cool dude. Like I occasionally make TikToks and do sewing stuff. I don't have any streams that I'm scheduled to be on, but keep an eye out on Keto and Crimes channel because we had a discussion on Wicca yesterday, and that should be coming out soon once she gets it all edited nicely. So go check that out.
Cool. Ben.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of you here know who I am. You can find me on YouTube at Student Dr. Ben, also on Twitch, Student Dr. Ben. I have medical myths every Saturday, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And then trivia on Friday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm also on Beck's channel, like, all the time.
Jenni.
I got nothing.
Okay. Julie.
I'm going to try and redeem myself by saying second chances are important and just stop there.
Okay. Robin is on spring break this week, so I'm kind of on a staycation at the moment, and so there will be no produced video this week. I'm kind of taking a little time off to enjoy Robin being home. And I'm not even sure what's going to be on the stream next week. I haven't finished arranging it. I'm trying to get Andrew Seidel on to talk about the constitutional effects of what states are trying to do in making their laws apply in other states. Obviously, that will not be next week. If I'm able to get him on, I'm going to have to accommodate his schedule. But that is something I am trying to work on at the moment. But I have a couple of people on. We will have some kind of a stream next week. But thank you, Kitty. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Jenni. Thank you, Julie. This has been an absolutely fantastic discussion. I think we covered all three topics with some really interesting thoughts. And so thank you all for joining me. And thank you to everyone in the chat. It's been lovely having your comments as well. And everyone head over to Beck's, Beck or B, and see B, no, just B. There we go. All right. Live your life.
Bye-bye.